Am I on? I guess I'm on here, yeah. Well, first of all, I want to thank you all for your continued support. Obviously, it's needed when we have so many different needs. And I'm going to go through these pretty quick because I think you all are very much aware of a lot of the things we do through all the different trips that you've helped us make and construction projects as well as your monthly support. Of course, this is our 24th anniversary. Our theme has always been, that we are supporting churches and evangelists throughout Mexico. We're in 24 cities, 9 different states, and then assisting children in several ways, as well as students through our programs, especially the university. Mexico, of course, is a poor nation, as you know. Over 130 million people. They have 31 states, just like we have the 50 states, largely in poverty. There, of course, still are some very wealthy people, some of them by dishonest gain, as we know, but still, most of our work is among the lower class people in the various colonies, and so it is sometimes difficult. The minimum wage is $50 a week. We would probably get upset if we made $50 a day, but it's $50 a week, the minimum. Of course, this was all started in 1961 by Brother Clinton Looney, and he's 93 years old now, so he's kind of backing away from a lot of the travel. Obviously, he's had some physical problems of late, but still does help some of the work in the Yucatan, especially. We count on him to be down there because he's very much aware of how that started. Most of our work is over the rest of Mexico. And then Pam and I began to take in the money from the various congregations and individuals. We've been out as much as we can raising money over these past 24 years. And actually, it's almost a full-time job for her in the office. Last year, our finances, we sent over $500,000 to Mexico. And so it takes a lot to not only give receipts and everything for those that contribute, but to make sure all those get into the right place. We do it in a very unique way, I won't get into, but by and large, we have about 15 different bank accounts that we have to take care of. So that's basically our theme. The churches that we work with, we provide the ministers with various amounts of salary depending upon whether it's a new church, mission church, how much the church itself can provide, and then we will supplement it up to a better living wage for them. And that's been our philosophy over the years. This was sort of the typical plan that we started with. This is a Monclova church, which is very much growing down. But we start off with a kind of a 2-story building where we can meet downstairs and the minister can have his parsonage and live upstairs. And then once they've grown out to the point where they can't no longer meet downstairs, we turn that into classrooms or a fellowship hall and then construct, as you see, a sanctuary. This church, by the way, is getting ready to build onto that sanctuary even further now. And that's, of course, what we always hope and dream. This is our Mexico Village desert work. This is where we have about 4 different evangelists, but they work several churches. It's a very poor area. That's strictly desert. Most of our buildings there are adobe type that you would picture in, Native American style, and that's located in the state of Nuevo Leon. We do go all the way from northern Mexico on the border with Texas all the way down to the border of Guatemala. In southern Mexico, this is a picture of our churches in Tapachula and also Cacahuatan. You've probably heard this town Tapachula in some of the news when the folks were coming up from Guatemala to try to get to the southern border of the United States because, again, a very poor country. Actually, in that same state of Chiapas, up on a mountain, it's actually the volcano Tocan. We have a town. You wouldn't believe there's a town up there. It's called San Rafael. It's 5,000 feet up on the volcano, but we have a very active church there. Unfortunately, the minister that had started and worked there just passed away, We do have someone filling in right now and trying to find someone who will, work steadily with them. It's a beautiful place. And then they run about 100 in their main church, but then they also have 4 little mission stations through the mountains, which you can't get to other than by walking or, dirt roads. I'm going to show you a few of our churches. This is a Rio Bravo Church where Brother Mario Luna preaches. We take trucks down there with a lot of supplies, mostly to the border. We can't obviously get a truck into Mexico, but we take them to border stations. We have some storage units in Laredo and Rio Bravo area and all the way down to Brownsville, Texas. And then people come and get the different supplies, and I'll show you some of those that we typically get. This is a new classroom building at Arteaga Church. They had just one building, so they needed a classroom. That went up. The Reynosa Church building there is actually a building that we actually lifted up. It was flooded completely. The city had not provided any drainage, and the whole area was just flooded underwater. And so we actually had to, there's a parsonage next to it, and we actually had to fill in the bottom of the parsonage and just remodel the top and then lift the entire building up. Steve Treep and several others were in that big team that worked on that. They just recently called me because Mario Luna is working the Rio Bravo and the Reynosa Church, and some of the folks at Reynosa called me and says, we're growing. We've got about 7 or 8 families here that would like to have a full-time minister, and we live in the parsonage. I said, well, we got a lot of money that we're going to have to spend on that parsonage to make it livable. Right now, I couldn't provide much of a salary, but I'll tell you, you select somebody that you think that you would like, try them out. I'm not going to tell you, who's going to be your minister. You all have got enough officers there to select someone, and then we'll just go out and see if we can raise the money for it. This is I mentioned Arteaga. Arteaga has a lot of land, and so they decided that they wanted to put up another building and hopefully create another camp. Now, we have 3 camps that we support, but they felt if they could put up another larger building, that they could actually start having camp there, and they're doing it on their own. We haven't been able to provide them with any money at all for that. We go all the way to Monterey, which of course is the 3rd largest city in Mexico. And these are 2 churches in Escobedo and Marisol. Those are suburbs, if you want to call it, of Monterey. Monterey also has a suburb called Guadalupe. And this is a beautiful church building. Again, it was one that we've never built like that. I didn't ever dream when we had the lot purchased and they showed us an architectural drawing. I said, we just usually put up concrete blocks and a bunch of tin on the roof. But we knew that this was a middle-class area. And if we were going to reach middle-class people, we had to have something that was a lot more appealing. And it's worked out beautifully. It's a beautiful building. They run close to 200 people. And that other picture is actually another church that they're starting. So if you can get a church growing enough, they go out and they start other churches. They're starting another church in Benito Juarez, which is a town just to the east of them. And that church is also growing, and now they have purchased a lot, and you can see that they're remodeling it. It's actually got a building on it, but it's not very conducive to a church building. But we have been able to provide them with a little bit of money, and the men have been working on it. And so that's a second church that started from really a lot where people were meeting in a tent. And we wind up with 2 wonderful churches from it. Also in that area we have Cienega de Flores. Manuel Cavazos has been there for quite some time. He's a very widely respected minister. One of our other churches in the Monterey area is in a place called Apodaca. That's right near the airport. And you can see a picture where that was taken on one of their anniversaries about 2 years ago. And Samuel Velez is the minister. He received his education in the United States, and he's bilingual. His dad was a longtime preacher in Monterey. His dad's now retired. We're giving him a little bit of retirement money, and we're supporting Samuel. They would love to, they're in a building that's sort of a remade factory into a church, and they have some property, and so we would love to be able to, to eventually build them a real sanctuary. Monclova is in northern New Mexico, but farther inland. It's very, very strong for Church of Christ. We have, counting the suburbs, we have about 12 churches there, and really going farther out to Constaños and so forth, we're probably 15 churches plus a camp. And these are some of the churches working in Monclova. This is just some of the crowds of the various churches. Again, you can see the typical program of building the two-story building. This is in a colony called 20 de Marzo, 20th of March. They named their colonies after famous people and famous dates. But they've outgrown all that, and they wanted desperately to have a sanctuary and a kitchen and things so they can have activities. And so we did have one church from Missouri that I took down there and showed them the situation, and they agreed that they would give enough money. It's well over $20,000 to start on it. And the first phase was a kitchen, and they provided everything that they needed. And the ladies have been using the kitchen to make tortillas to sell so that they can build their sanctuary. We haven't been able to give them much money, a few $100s here and there for concrete blocks. But as you can see, everybody pitches in, and they're working on what is going to be a really big sanctuary for them, and then they can use the bottom part of their building for classes. This is La Villa Church in Matamoros, which is right across the border from Brownsville. It's been one of our very strong churches. It's run well over 100. They were standing room only. But our minister there for a long time, Geraldo Dominicus, was probably one of the best ministers in Mexico. He was president of what we call the Religious Association. And he received an opportunity to go to Querétaro to help start a new church there in a very historic city, and he decided that it was time for him to move. And so we brought in a recent graduate, Nathaniel Mendoza. He's from that area, and his wife, Beceda. They just had their first baby, and he's working with the church now. This was their expansion. Because they needed more room, they had built a huge expansion, but it still lacks the roof. We do have the metal. We have finished the girders and the metal to go on it, but that's as far as the money takes us right now. As far as fixing the inside of it, that'll just have to come later. They actually meet out there sometimes when the weather's good, of course. This is Pedro Toga and his family. It's in Matamoros. It's in the Paraíso colony. It's one of our largest properties, 12 lots we have there. And because we used to have the children's home there, but we no longer do. But they have 4 buildings. He's recently remodeled his parsonage. We've helped him a little bit. He actually also has started a church about 10 hours away in Veracruz, the state of Veracruz. And he takes some of his elders down there, and he's being helped by Caleb Northrop. The Northrop family has been a long time in Mexico, and they have worked in that area. And so we generally provide mostly just travel money, and the Northrops have been helping construct this mission church. But so Pedro basically has 2 churches. One of them's almost 10 hours away, but he does have elders in that new church. So we're really proud of what he's done, not only here, but in establishing another mission church. And this is a picture of the mission church. They're just meeting right now in a little area until they finish their building. Saltillo, Brother Alfonso Oliveras has been there for some time. He started his 3rd church. We have 3 churches there, and also the feeding program. And this is a way that we're starting. Really, what amounts to the third church in San Morales. This is this church in Costaños, which is outside of Monclova. Again, you can see the two-story building, but you can also see that they are expanding. They have already finished that back-end sanctuary and working on some restrooms, and last I heard those were about completed. Again, we had a church from Illinois that gave them some money especially for that expansion to make the sanctuary, and then also to help make the parsonage a little bit better upstairs. It's at a corner of, it's in a perfect place. It's at the corner in a large colony, a growing colony, and so it has the potential to really grow tremendously. Nuevo Laredo, this is another potential growth place with Jose Angel Banderas. You can see his plans. Right now he has just a two-story building, but we have already purchased a lot for a sanctuary. A camp this summer gave $1,000 to the project. Of course, that's not going to build the building, but at least it's going to get started, maybe build the fence and the foundation. It's located right on a main highway in a colony that has expanded out. It must have 10,000 new homes. A lot of them are these government apartment type homes for the low income. Guadalajara is the second largest city in Mexico, and we have the Yanez Church. This was actually the first church that Clinton Looney started when he first went to Mexico, and the Barajas family ministers there. Actually, two of the brothers are there. Two of the other brothers are working in other places, and we support all four of them. The Yanez Church has its own little Bible Institute. In fact, both ministers, Omar and Javier, although Omar works at secular as well, have had books published by literature and teaching ministries. That's how smart they are. They are certainly, that's two of our most intelligent and hardworking ministers we have. And here's what they've been doing. They've been remodeling their pews, and then they've been remodeling all their outside, making the sidewalks and entranceways better. And again, they're doing that all on their own. These are just some pictures of some of our other ministers and their families. We have right now 49 that technically we have 50 because we've been helping David Colosio in his youth work. If we count him, we have 50 different ministers that we're helping. This is Josh and Vera Nunez there on the big picture, and they started out working at our university, Universidad Cristiana de Querétaro, but now they have expanded out and started their own little mission that is working with youth, strictly with youth in Querétaro. Querétaro is where our university is, and it's one of the most famous cities in Mexico. It's in fact, it's on the National World Historical Record. It's where the Spanish Revolution started. Again, some more of our ministers all the way up to Juarez. We have ministers all the way up across from El Paso, and that's of course where I'm sure you've heard a lot of news about that. I've been down there during some of all that mess with the migrants and so forth. It means you have to change bridges every now and then instead of waiting in line for 3 hours to get across back in the United States. But other than that, it hasn't affected us too much. One thing that did surprise me is a lot of our ministers are saying people think all these people are coming up from Guatemala and El Salvador. They're actually, a lot of them are coming from Africa and the Caribbean. There are a lot of them, and that doesn't often get in the news. We have lots of reports of baptisms. These are, again, some of our ministers. And, of course, we know children are the key to the future of the Church in Mexico. And so we emphasize, these are VBS pictures. I mean, we're talking churches that will have 200-300 kids come to VBS. And that's where we've gotten in a little trouble. We're a little bit in debt right now in terms of our finances because we've had to help with so much of the VBS and the camp this summer. Churches that can't possibly handle that many hundreds of kids. These are two of the things that I mentioned that we often take to Mexico. We have a couple of churches that prepare Christmas bags, and that's up on top there. These are some Kentucky churches, Farmers, and also Flemingsburg. And then we have a group of ladies that mostly they're from Southeast, the big Southeast church in Louisville, but some of them are from Indiana. So they call themselves Kentuckiana So Blessed, meaning they sew dresses for kids. They take T-shirts and things that they can, whatever they can pick up, and they attach things to them and they decorate them. They send us hundreds and hundreds of these, and we try to get them to all the different kids that we can. And I've got about 6 bags right now that try to get down to different places. Again, some more BBS pictures, huge crowds. They love it. The kids put on plays. They just have a wonderful time. Mexico is, well, you know, we used to have a lot of these in the United States where we got churches together and had unity meetings and fellowship and so forth. Well, they love that in Mexico. They love to get together. And so maybe if there's 4 churches in a city, they'll come together for a meeting. We have, I said, in Monterey, we have 15 churches. Now, we don't help all of them. We help quite a few of them. But they get together and have unity meetings. The women love to have meetings. We have youth conventions. We have what would be equivalent of the North American Christian Convention, Confraternidad, we call it, and in fact, it was just held recently. A lot of baptism pictures they send me almost weekly. Have a variety of ways that people get baptized. We have some baptistries in churches, but a lot of them are in the ocean, a lot of them are in swimming pools, a lot of them are in just homemade tubs. Some of them in little swimming pools, but any way that we can get it done, they get it done. Jesus Menchaca has been in Nuevo Laredo for many years. He started a downtown church, then went out and started the 12-kilometer church. And this is where we also have a student home where we allow students to come and from around Mexico and live, work, and then attend university and free of charge. Well, I mentioned camps. We have 3 camps, and they've really been very popular this summer. This is the camp in Sandia. That's again in the desert, and I really mean desert. We do have dormitories there. We do have a big pavilion there. They worked and created a nice new volleyball court this year, and you can see it's just old-fashioned camp. You know, we used to line up and see who had the straightest line and everything. That's how they do it. And then another camp is in Sombriete. This is outside of Monclova. This is actually one of the buildings there is probably one of the largest buildings we have in Monclova, and they filled it. We have generally they use it at different times for meetings, but generally as far as camp season is concerned, we have youth camp, and then they have family camp where the whole family comes. This is the camp in Toro Prieto right on the banks of the Gulf of Mexico. Beaches everywhere, not a single hotel within 100, 200 miles, but it's just, we do have a church there, and we created extra buildings. Just sent $1,000 though prior to camp because there were problems with the beds were wearing out, mattresses, so we just spent $1,000 upgrading there in Toro Prieto. The feeding program I mentioned in Saltillo, we generally try to send at least $500 a month so that the kids can have a hot meal. It all depends on how the money works out, but usually at least 2 times a week, or sometimes 3 times a week. They'll get together in the building and have a big meal and a Bible lesson. This is probably one of the greatest stories that we have. Jesus Menchaca's son, Rio Menchaca. We actually started back in 1993 and put him through dental school. And he is a dentist. He has a dental office there. When we bought that piece of property, it was just nothing there but an old shack. Now we have 2 properties in four buildings, and they're building on again. This is one of the most active churches you could imagine. There's their new sanctuary. When we started out, we just started out with that bottom part where they lived and tried to start Bible classes. And now it's unbelievable, everything that they do. And a lot of it they've done on their own, but we do support him. We don't support Rayu. He supports himself with his dental work and then as an evangelist himself. Now they're going up again. And so this is, I don't know, this must be at least the 10th construction project that they've had there. They want to go on up. We did get enough money raised to get some of the girders up. We go all the way down to Veracruz State, which is a very, very poor state. Many of our churches there kind of struggle a little bit getting people in, but they are also been participating, and this has really been participating in our extension program from Querétaro and the Bible Institute, Bible College. It used to be called Instituto Biblico, but we reorganized into a full university to get accreditation and started an extension program. Brother Jaime Castro came to the United States for 5 years, went to KCU, stayed a little bit with us. I got some wonderful leadership qualities, and then he agreed to go back. And when he went back, we reorganized, and now it actually started in 1974, but we built a big new chapel there, and they just are adding on to the girls' dorm. It's where we train men and women. We have room for about 35 students on campus, and it's full. But we have a lot of part-time students that come in at night. But the main thing is we have extension program. We have the 4-year program, but we also have over 600 members of churches throughout Mexico that participate in the extension program. And this is where we send out booklets. They get on. You get emails, internet, just basically the way that you would operate on an internet course here in the United States. And then they get a big diploma, and it excites the people that have participated. And that's a picture of the graduation that included some extension people. We didn't have that many graduate from the 4-year program. But part of their work is evangelizing the churches. Every Easter and every summer they have to go on tour. And they tour with sometimes 3 groups, a guitar choir group, a youth group, and then also a drama group. And they go to different churches and put on programs. This is our medical clinic in Monclova. We started a medical clinic about 15 years ago with a group called Hasten International. Dr. Dennis Pruitt, some of you may know, helped us with this, and they continue to support us with this. But we also go on the road. We have a pharmacy, a volunteer doctor, a nurse. We pay the nurse, pay a secretary. It's located near the poor colonies, but we realize people can't always come to the clinic, and the doctor only comes maybe twice a week, at half day at most. But we take it on the road out to different churches and take all the medicines and the vitamins and so forth and do checkups. And generally when they go, they also do things like haircuts and take clothing and take some of my dresses and that kind of thing. So they try to meet the need of the churches. One of our most famous programs is the Deaf Home and the Deaf School. This has been so successful. This is the 15th year. Michelle Peak, when she graduated from Ozark, wanted to go and be a part of deaf ministry. We sent her down there and gave her a year's salary, so see what you can do. Well, what she did has been amazing. She married Jesus, a man in the church there at La Villa, and we have just finished a brand new campus. It took us 15 years, but it's the most amazing place imaginable. We have 42 students, deaf students. They range all the way from 4 years old to up in their 20s. And of course, deaf people in Mexico are just simply left in the street sometimes by their parents to raise money in prostitution or whatever, or abused at home, or never go to school. So this has been And they've been recognized by the Mexican government. The Mexican government would love to send every deaf kid they have there, but of course we can't handle that. We have part of our campus now. When we started out, we had two buildings. One was so dilapidated it was hardly usable, and we tore it down. We remodeled the other building to a boys' dorm. We built a brand new girls' dorm. We built a 3-stage classroom building with all the classes. They can get a GED, they get reading, writing, arithmetic, but we train them in sewing, cooking, carpentry, so that they can get out and become an actual part of society. We have a clothing pantry there for the families of the deaf families and the community. So we teach the deaf, the parents who want to learn how to sign language, we teach them. It's a very unique ministry. Some of these girls there, they have their own little business. They make bows and different things, and they sell them, and they're pretty good entrepreneurs. They live there and in the dormitory. That's our major construction. You can see we have a beautiful classroom building. We also have a complete fence now all around the property, and we have a beautiful playground. That was donated, a combination from one individual, and also Thrivent insurance company gave us a grant. And those are not bought playground equipment. Those are handmade because we wanted them, because they have to withstand storms and hurricanes and everything. So everything was made exactly the way we wanted it by craftsmen so that they would withstand, and there's something for every age group. You know, short-term mission teams we count on to help with construction. These are just a few shots of, as you will know, what we build. We haven't had too many teams come since probably last 6 years. People have been a little afraid of coming. Some people that used to come are getting too old. But we do everything and help any way we can. It's a very important thing for people of church who support, and this is a way we raise support. We send a group down and they get acquainted with the ministry and get acquainted with what we're doing, and go back home and say, we need to start supporting that group, and that's how we get a lot of our support. This is just an example there. Of Cancun. They used to hold services in a little lean-to. They actually had 3 of them, and now you can see what kind of church building they have. And that's what a group can do. Lots of things for everybody to do, from cooking to painting to preaching. And it is a great thing. It's a partnership, and they love it when people come and realize that you're paying to actually come and help them on your vacation. We also do a lot at Christmas time. We send a lot of gifts down. We pack up food. We go out into the desert sometimes where people are begging, very poor people. And we try to do something every year at Christmas. I don't know how many times we've driven trucks down, and then they take that what we've brought and they go on out themselves. Of course, we attend the conventions to International Conference on Mission, extension classes. We buy all kinds of Spanish Bibles, all kinds of Spanish literature. Any preacher that sends me something, says, I'd like to have this book, we get it down there to them. And here are basically, in closing, our current needs. We still need monthly support for some of those ministers. We have 12 projects in various stages of construction, as you saw. Every church needs vehicles. They just tear up like crazy on those roads. The problem is, though, the Mexican government will only allow you to import certain kinds and certain years of vehicles. They've really cracked down on it, so it makes it pretty difficult. Scholarships, we have a lot of people that scholarship people and kids in the university and in the deaf school. We have a lot of people that adopt a student at both of those institutes. So finally, in Mexico, what's happening? Lives are being changed. Conditions are being improved. Churches are being encouraged. And we're in, as we said, in 9 different states, 23 cities. All your financial support goes directly to Mexico. There's no real overhead. Our church, Sugar Grove Christian Church, committed itself 24 years ago to handle all of the office supplies, and all the printing, all the postage, everything that has to do with taking care of $500,000. And then, so you know, if you donate some money, it's going to Mexico, to wherever you designate it. And people designate, of course, to the deaf home, to the university, to certain ministers, to feeding program or whatever. And of course, our office is actually in Grayson. We have some brochures out there and some pins and some of our latest newsletters. We have a Facebook group we'd like for you to join and keep up. A lot of people in Mexico post on that almost weekly. So again, thank you, Coal Run, for all your help and support. And I can tell you that we had problems like everybody else. You know, get emails and calls every week about something, but God's been working with us to try to solve those, and also to grow and grow and grow. And we do grow certainly every year in numbers of people that are helping, as also the number of people that are working in Mexico. Thank you very much.